Items of resident interest, board committee reports. David, you want to start?
Certainly, I attended the Palm Beach County League of Cities meeting on March 26th. And we did go over a lot of things, and a couple of things I do want to bring to the attention of the residents and to the council. Minor things that we did was we did amend the bylaws of the League of Cities. The major amendment that I want to tell you about is that, Bert, your committee is now a standing committee. The Inspector General Budget Review Committee has now been made a permanent committee. So
Great.
good. So we'll be doing that every year. And also, Don Pardo was appointed to the Countywide Coastal Council. We also made our nominations for the next board League of Cities board. Don Pardo will be the president. Let's see, and the second vice president will be Don Chaloup, and the immediate past president will be Scott Maxwell of Lake Worth, and I have been reappointed to the board. Thank you. Something, though, that was brought up that I think is a concern to all the citizens of Palm Beach County. Hal, I'm glad you're here, so you probably know what I'm going to talk about. The Solid Waste Authority is proposing importing waste from other communities, other counties, to go to their burn facility. So the design of the burn facility is currently about 80%. About 80% of the design capacity of the burn facility can be supplied by Palm Beach County today. Right now, what they're proposing is to bring that additional 20% from outside the county. I have a couple of concerns about this that I'm glad you're here so you can hear these concerns.
Sure.
Well, one is that they're proposing a tipping rate of $25 per ton, which is lower than what they charge people from the county to bring in, which is $42 a ton. The other thing, and I'm going to quote Bob Chaloup from Lake Clark Shores, is that it's going to give us the reputation of taking everybody else's waste, including one waste stream that really concerned me, which was pharmaceutical waste generated from outside of the state of Florida. And when I asked the representative of Solid Waste Authority what the burn efficiency of the facility was going to be, he didn't have an answer for me. And when we need to make sure that we're bringing in any types of exotic waste like pharmaceuticals, that we have complete destruction of this, otherwise we're going to have airborne pollutants that could injure nearby residents. And as you know, steeplechase is very close to this. We also want to make sure that we don't increase any odors. And one of my concerns is shortening the life of the landfill facility, which is why we spent $700 million on this facility, to make sure that we don't shorten that by bringing in outside waste. So there were some questions, and I understand the reason why the Solid Waste Authority has proposed this is to lower their costs because they're going to be operating under capacity. But the savings, when they were questioned, was it would lower our SWA fees per resident from $175 to $171. I'm correct on that, right? Now it's $4.
Let's talk about the big picture is $45 million.
Yeah.
No more. Come on, David, just go.
So anyway, I expressed some of these concerns, and one of the things that I really expressed, and I really encourage the Solid Waste Authority, is that if they're going to charge tipping fees for outside the county, they need to either be the same or higher than the tipping fees that we pay ourselves. Because I don't think that the citizens of Palm Beach County should be subsidizing out-of-county waste, and if they're going to bring in exotic waste streaming like that, like pharmaceuticals, they need to absolutely make sure that they have as close to 100% burn efficiency as is possible. So that is my report from the League of Cities.
Thank you. Marcy?
I think I've said enough, thank you, I'm good.
Wow, really? Joe?
No, we're running late, so I'm going to say my comments for the charter review.
Okay. Eric?
We are running late, but just quickly, the MPO last meeting discussed a wish list for the 2040 plan. On it were some flyovers that frankly I know you are against, and you as a councilor are against, articulated in public, I am against. And in the next 3 months, they're going to be deciding on what ends up in that 2040 plan, and I'm going to be vigorously opposing certainly flyovers. And that's it.
Okay, just one quick note. professional golfer Ernie Els. As we know, one of his sons has autism, and they're building a beautiful facility in Jupiter right now. And next Thursday, April 10th, they're having an event from 6 to 9 at Old Palm. It's $125. You can go on Els for Autism, and they're having all sorts of food, and it's a social event. I think last year they raised about $30,000, which is going to the construction of the school and to his involvement, along with State Representative Pat Rooney also. So it's a great event. We're thankful to have it here, one of them in our city at Old Palm. It was a big success last year, so if you get a chance, go on the Els for Autism website, take a look at that and see if you want to attend next Thursday, 6 to 9 p.m.
You know, the Honda Classic basically committed $250,000, basically $50,000 a year for 5 years for that project.
Very nice.
Great. You know, that's great. As we all know, autism is 1 out of every 68 children today. I mean, it's a crazy number, so it's a great thing. We're thankful that everybody else is devoted his time, energy, and everything.
I know the city has a connection with it, and the town of Jupiter happened to get the facility, but when it's done, it'll be 300 students.
It's really in the unincorporated, but it's not in the town.
It's Jupiter, it's north. Now, get him out. Hang him on the head, hang him on the head. It's still, we're very thankful to have it in North
It's in
County.
limestone.
North County, so we're very happy to have it here. All right, move on to the city manager report.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor and Council, just a couple items for you. A little update on the FDOT presentation here at PGA for the citizens that may not be aware that the city had requested FDOT fund the raising of the road because of the flooding that was identified earlier. In addition to that, it did hamper on occasion our response as far as public safety is concerned, but it's also an evacuation route. And frankly, our lobbyists got involved with this and met with FDOT, and they did put this on the fast track for us for those reasons. Not saying that I'm in any way, shape, or form endorsing shutting down that road, because internally when we discuss this, it's obviously going to have an impact on the emergency responses for both police and fire rescue. And any delay in rescue, and sometimes we are the closest unit due, having the Calusa Airport and the research area, the research facility out there as well. So we're very concerned about response time. If you're in the middle of an emergency or a cardiac arrest, every second counts, and we would not like to see that from a staff perspective. We would not like to see that road closed. We need to have the most direct route to those emergency responses as possible. But I do thank FDOT for funding it. They did so in a short period of time, and I know they're trying to get this done to help us with hurricane season. In the event that we need an evacuation route, we'll have a way to go. In addition to that, I just wanted to bring you up to date. In 2006, we conducted a resident survey to assess the services that we provide the public. And it was used by council and its staff to talk about some of our policies that came up as a result of input from our citizens, as well as some of the budget implications it had. We use that as a benchmark and a performance base as far as measuring some of the department's activities. We're getting ready to go out once again for that citizen survey to give a report card on the services that we provide and for some recommendations as far as the citizens are concerned with the community. Currently, the fire department is poised to go out and do a survey because of their reaccreditation required to do that. So we thought we would go ahead and put their survey with the resident survey and go out and try to get some feedback. So if there's anything necessarily that you would like us to consider for placement in the survey, we're going to try to model it after the same one we did in 2006 so we can compare the results. Mostly, but we'll have some changes to it. So if there's anything that you would like to have in that survey, any issues pending that you'd like to have in that survey, we would open that up to any suggestions you have. And you can certainly let me know. I don't know where we're at yet with broadcasting of the meeting, but if you want to question something like that, or if you already want to discuss that and come to a decision, but anything like that you would like to have citizen input on, just let us know.
What's your plan for the survey to go out?
Probably within 60 days.
I think you should include the broadcasting of the meeting, because I think we seem to be committed to doing it. The question is how we're going to do it. So the question is what I think we'd like to know is how many residents are interested in looking at it? Would they look at it on television? Would they look at it on the internet? And so forth. So how many listen to the meetings now? And I think you could do that, because then we'll know what we should be doing, rather than just taking a shot.
If you're going to do that, I think you need to include the cost that's involved too, so that the residents understand how much this could potentially cost them. Not just, would you like to see our council meetings on television? Yes, no, most people are
Well,
going to say
you could
yes.
say is it would cost us 100,000, whatever.
Right,
Would
for this.
you be interested in us spending that money? Would you be taking advantage of looking? Right, the whole
An
thing.
alternative, right, all the way down the list.
I don't really agree with that. I think you just get, I think you just get some input, yeah. I think you just get some input on how they want to get the material, whether it be on the phone, stream live, or live, whatever, live, and then get input back from that, and then we have an open meeting about that and talk about it. I don't think I want to put dollars on the survey.
You know, everybody says, you know, when you ask anybody anything, oh yeah, I'll take it. And then you say, well, it's going to cost this much, and they say, well, wait a minute, that doesn't, I'm not even going to, you know what I'm saying? It's just,
But that would be for a meeting here at council one night to talk about it if we
well,
decide.
you're only going to know what people tell you. You're going to decide off of the survey. I'd just like to make sure that the survey number
This is one thing.
You know, if I get a survey that says it costs me $100,000 a year, I'm going to obviously vote no. But that might not be the case.
Yeah, but-
an alternative.
Yeah, but so let's say it's 100 for the television and 25 for the website. So I would say, well, look, I'm not going to watch it on television, put it on the website. Obviously, we're going to do something. We're not.
Yeah, we're going to do something, but I don't think numbers on the survey make sense, Marcy.
I think we're aggressive. I mean, I thought that we decided to move forward with web streaming, whether it's live or not live. We had a conversation, we said the television was $800,000. We took into account the cable TV price and the price for satellite TV and the several stations that we've had personally, plus also the cost that we would have to provide 10 hours of additional broadcasting per channel, 10 to 12, depending on the cable network. I thought we said that was too much, we were going to move forward with the putting up a camera, but how are we going to do that is what we were going to talk about in the future.
Well, I believe that if people are going to take the opportunity and do want to have a city channel, that we should look at doing it. I mean, I'm not opposed to doing it.
So you want,
West Palm Beach has one, there's other cities that have
but
one.
they were put in, they had a TV channel before the provision of you have to put 10 to 12 hours of additional broadcasting.
We might be able to negotiate that out.
I mean, that's fine with me. If you want to put it on a survey, I would much rather get input than say the absolute cost, which I think Eric already had the cost associated with the TV.
I don't have a problem, I like to do the survey, as long as it's going to take a year to do the survey. So you're saying 60 days, if we're going to know within 90 days, because whatever we do, we're going to have to put it in the next budget year. So if we're going to know within 90 days, we can have it up and running, let's say by September, you know.
It's just an indication of what people want. We're not, this isn't a plebiscite. We're not saying, you want this, we're going to do it.
TV,
You still have
and
to-
it costs, I think the cost is important for the
Yeah.
residents to understand.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can't go through a whole,
No.
if you're gonna do a survey, it's gotta be short.
We're going to be short and sweet.
You can't,
And there are ways to do that.
otherwise people are gonna not
Okay.
do the survey.
In other words, Ron, include it in the survey, come up with some suggestion, and we'll look at it.
I will include the question in the survey, and we'll let the professional survey people tell us how best to do that. Thank you.
All right, comments from the public. Gary, is it Brandenburg? Well, I want to make
It
it.
is.
Gary, thank you for waiting up for the presentation, appreciate it.
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much, first of all, for your service, and also for getting out to all the interested people the correct information on all these items that are coming forward, which I think is really, really important. I represent Calusa. Carl Creedon is also here tonight. Calusa is extremely worried about the closing of PGA Boulevard. It is one of the major arterial connections to their community. It will severely inconvenience their residents. the medical access and emergency access to that facility is going to inconvenience 400 families. And as you know, Calusa already has very high fire insurance premiums as a result of a long trip by the fire department to get to Calusa. This will only exacerbate that and possibly cause a loss of life. Not only is it bad for the residents, there are a lot of businesses out there. We have all the businesses at North County Airport, you have Pratt Whitney, you have all the businesses in the Florida Research Park. All those businesses are going to be inconvenienced with their employees as well as people coming to them to buy their services. This is an evacuation route. If they're talking about doing it during the summer, that's the most probable time that you're going to need an evacuation for hurricanes. And it's the least likely time you know that you won't need it. So that's not a really good idea there. So there's going to be a substantial amount of traffic that is shot through PGA, disturbing our neighbors in PGA National as a result of people using Jog Road to get to and from PGA Boulevard. There's just a lot of negatives about the potential of closing that road. As far as we know, there's only a 200-foot section of PGA Boulevard that floods even in the very, very worst occasions. And I know that our engineers and FDOT engineers can find a way to solve that problem for 200 feet without shutting down access to all of our communities. Lastly, to hear a state agency complain about delay in permitting is just priceless to me, since I've worked for developers for 20 years. So I think, FDOT should take their time, do it right, rethink, and refocus to actually curing the small 200-foot problem that they have. And lastly, respectfully, I would suggest that we came out here tonight to impress upon FDOT our desires. It would have been a lot more impressive if we were able to speak when FDOT was here, when the matters are on the agenda, as opposed to putting all the public matters in one bunch when FDOT has already left the room. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tom Carnes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Tom Carnes. I'm here tonight primarily on behalf of the PGA Corridor Association. We also have two other board members from the Corridor Association here, Don Herring and Ken Tuma. I'd like to reiterate what Councilmember Tinsley said earlier, and she expressed her pride in the city, and we want to echo that and say you really have a good reason to be proud of it. You can all be very proud of the job that you've done here. All of the departments in the city are award-winning, and boy, it's just congratulations to the finance department. 19 years in a row. That's unbelievable, get that award, and really kudos to you, City Manager Ferris, for doing such a great job. Boy, every time I come up and I hear, every time I come to a council meeting, someone is getting an award. The police department, the fire department, Parks and Recreation. It's always someone. It's just, you're all doing a terrific job. So congratulations to all of you. I just want to remind you that PGA Corridor Association is here to protect, enhance, and promote the PGA Corridor as the premier business corridor in South Florida. And in any way that we can help you to do that, and if you want us to serve on any of the boards or advisory committees for what we've heard tonight for all over Florida, or for the widening of PGA Boulevard, not widening, but the repair of PGA Boulevard, we have some engineers on our board, and we have some people that have some experience in this matters, and we'd be happy to participate in that if you find that helpful, or in anything else we can help you with in the city in any redevelopment. And Lastly, I just want to remind you, next Tuesday, the Quarter Association is going to have their annual property rights luncheon, and we hope you can make that. And then April 26th is the Amanda Buckley golf tournament that we all participate in every year. We're looking forward to that. That's such a great cause. And then April 30th, we're particularly looking forward to the Mayor's State of the City breakfast. So we sure hope that all of you can attend all of those events. And again, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Tom. Mel Grossman?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Mel Grossman, 161 Thornton Drive, PG National. I was going to talk about Avanar, about the 3 meetings that they set up for next week and a week after and a month after. We've been to too many meetings, and the painting of pictures and the projects are very impressive if you want to go to a museum. I think what I'd like to suggest to this council, and I appreciate everything talking about the residents liking or disliking certain subjects. Could we have more town hall meetings and you really see what the residents want? I haven't spoken to any residents that want 10,000 more homes being built on the west side of Ryder Cup Boulevard, right by the acreage from PGA to North Lake. Traffic will be horrendous as it started now. I said about a couple of weeks ago, that I now come out of, I also live, like Eric Chapman lives in PGA National. I also come out on Ryder Cup Boulevard in the morning, and now I have 14 lights and 8 cameras facing me to go about that half mile that we erected to get to the turnpike. I'd like to know from the council how we residents benefit from 10,000 homes being built. Are our property taxes going to go down? Are any of the facilities being improved? Does anybody have an answer for me? I'd appreciate it. I have some people to answer to and answer for. Just as important, and this just came up, I didn't realize it was all aboard Florida. There was a Treasure Coast regional meeting on March 21st, that's Friday morning up in Stewart. If anybody was up there, I didn't see anybody from your city council, but a few hundred people were there. I guess all the 4 counties, the 3 counties up north, and the 4th county being Palm Beach County were represented. Mayor Taylor was there, Vice Mayor Burdick was there. And if you would have heard the residents, just normal residents of Palm Beach County, Martin County, Indian County, and St. Lucie County, talk about their homes and talk about property values and talk about all aboard Florida. They didn't want it. It was a 3-hour meeting. There were 26 people talking, and only one person said, we want all aboard Florida. What I'm suggesting, I'll take less than 1 more minute. Can we arrange for roundtable discussions? Can you have more residents involved? I think I heard that tonight, and I appreciate everybody saying that. It's really important. We residents have had it up to here. Excuse me, I'll break it, then I'll have to pay for it, so I know it'll cost me something. But we residents have had it up to here as far as what's good for us. And if you want a comprehensive study on all aboard Florida, we can give you 100 pages on it, why it should not happen. There is no private concern in a railroad business that has made money in the last 100 years that trains were riding.
Okay, Mel.
This will be the same thing. Thank you all again, and congratulations to the new mayor, the existing mayor. Congratulations to Eric Jablin and Marcy Tinsley. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mel. And I think what you're going to see in the future on these larger projects like Avenir and Olive Board is there's going to be more information out there, more workshops, such as the 3 coming up, I think, this month. And Olive Board, Florida, as we discussed earlier, I think we're going to try to stay on top of that as best as we can, because it seems to be like a moving door, if you will. And we've just got to try to stay ahead of it, be proactive on what's going on with trains, who's doing what, what's funding what, where things are going. And certainly as those things progress, we can get more information. There's going to be workshops on that and get more public involvement, if not the municipal involvement as we get together. So,
If I may just, Mel, as it relates to Avenue, there's a legal process with that. Right now, that is zoned for 400 houses in the city. We're not going to have workshops on that. That's going to come before this council, it's going to be coming before the planning board, and there's a legal process that we have to go through and do things proper. So you're not going to probably see us having any meetings on that until that happens.
I think it's important to, these meetings are not sponsored by the city. These are sponsored by the developer. As a matter of fact, I do not plan on attending them. I don't know if I, yeah. So these are informational from the developer to you. And as far as our decision goes, when it comes before us, and I think we've actually all stated publicly that we're opposed to the project as it has been presented, so.
thank you. Thank you, Mel. Bertha, I just got a card from you on the trains.
Yeah.
Okay, come on up. Yeah. We enjoy new faces.
I'm not a public speaker.
That's okay, you'll be fine. Name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Bertha Maddox. I'm at 910 Magdalena Road in Palm Beach Gardens.
Thank you.
And thank you for y'all for speaking up today on the train. I'm elated that you're seeing a different picture than what it is. I live very close to the train. Got a lot of people here from my development here tonight, and I know there's a few things I heard it'll take 1 minute to get the trains by. My question is, I go in anywhere from 75 to 110 miles an hour. You're going to have to lower those trucks. When you look, the arms for the railroad trucks, or the arms, whatever they call them. That's going to hold up traffic at all those intersections, and it's going to back it up. So it's going to be longer than 1 minute. They may go by in a minute, but you've got to lower the arms. You've got Donald Ross, Frederick Small, Indian Town. You're all going to be down, maybe at the same time. So you're going to have backups. Just want to make sure that that's looked into. The hospitals will be also concerned because you've got Jupiter Hospital. People are coming from the east side. They've got to cross the tracks to come over. Palm Beach Gardens, if they're coming from Flat 5, Flat 6, they've got to cross over to go to Gardens. So that's an issue. The quiet zones are great, but I don't believe that they're going to alleviate any of the problems for the residents that live close to the tracks. The noise will still be there. How will it be mitigated is the question everybody wants. 52 trains, and if you live by the railroad track, would be unbearable. Okay, unbearable. You've got, maybe they're projected 20 by the FEC because of the Panama Canal opening up and a lot of things going on. Then 32 from, this all aboard joke is ridiculous. There's not going to be any buffers for the residents. It's not going to help it. Who's going to mitigate for the homeowners? I'm also a realtor. It's going to depreciate values. Nobody's going to want to live on the tracks. I mean, it's different when you've got a few trains going by every now and then, but when you have 52, it's, I just want to make sure that you guys really look at big, I'm not a professional speaker, so excuse me for saying you guys, but that's not very professional. But I really would appreciate if the council looks at the big picture, looks at it for the greater good of all the citizens and not for the money. Because in the long run, they do have the West Corridor. They can lease it. It may be more beneficial to them to lease it than all the money that is going to cost the cities, the residents, the taxpayers. That's my opinion in that one. But please look into it. Do it for the greater good of everyone.
You did great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you coming tonight. comments from the public, no more cards.
Consent agenda.
Hold on. Lou, you're speaking on a thing that's on the agenda. You're speaking on an issue that's on the agenda that we're getting to. Yeah, resolution 21 is what we have on here. That's coming up first on the agenda. So after the presentation, we'll ask for public
I
comments.
withdraw my motion.
I'm sorry, consent agenda?
I have to pull one item from the consent agenda, and so therefore I would like to move to pull E from the consent agenda, please.
Move to approve consent agenda except for item E.
Got a motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Okay, we have item E on the consent agenda, purchase award.
I need to recuse myself for this item because the, one of the contractors leases space from the office building.
Point of order, before we move on to item E, we need to pass the consent agenda. I don't think we took a vote. We did?
Got a motion and second, all aye,
Aye. I'm just a little late, I'm a late aye.
we already got 5, okay, so purchase order. Got a motion,
Second.
motion and second on item E, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. Okay, tonight we are holding quasi-judicial hearings on the following cases. Resolution 21, 2014, PCD amendment to modify utility easements. Resolution 23, 2014, Downtown Gardens Plan Community Development, PCD Master Signage Plan Amendment. This means that the City Council is required by law to base its decision on the evidence contained in the record of this proceeding, which consists of the testimony of the hearing and the materials which are in the official city file on this application and any documents presented during the hearing. The council is also required by law to allow cross-examination of any witnesses who testify tonight. Cross-examination may occur after the staff, the applicant, and other participants have made their presentations and will be permitted in the order of the witness's appearance. It is necessary that anyone who testifies at the hearing remain until the conclusion of the hearing in order to be able to respond to any questions. If you plan to testify this evening or wish to offer written comments, please fill out a card and give it to the city clerk. The city clerk will now swear in all persons who intend to offer testimony this evening on any of these cases.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
First up is Resolution 21, 2014. Will the clerk read the title?
Resolution 21, 2014, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving an amendment to the Alton Plan Community Development PCD, formerly known as Scripps Florida, creating Phase 2 River Track PCD, to incorporate modifications to utility easements, roadway cross-sections, and buffers, lakes, open space, and revisions to conditions of approval as more particularly described herein, providing conditions of approval, providing effective date for other purposes.
Open the public hearing and ask for any ex partes.
I have an expert opinion. I met with Mr. Tuma and Mr. Zabel.
None? None. Okay, petitioner presentation, please.
Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council members. For the record, Ken Tuba of Urban Design Kilday Studios, here today on behalf of Alton, which is now owned by Coulter Homes, which used to be, of course, the Briger parcel. And it is an exciting evening to be here. This is a first step in a process that's been going on since May of 2005, when there was a workshop series held to talk about the Briger parcel. And now here we are, 9 years later, the project's been purchased by someone, and they're moving forward with the property. What you're going to see tonight, and what's before you tonight, are really cleanup items. This approval was done 4 years ago, and we're working through some cleanup items now that there's a purchaser to the property. Forthcoming, you're going to see lots of exciting things. Mr. Herring back here is working on the first site plan, which is in the Town Center District, which is in the southern part for residential development. That'll be coming before you fairly soon. And then hopefully very soon we'll be submitting a cohesive signage and hardscape package. That cohesive signage and landscape package is going to tie together all the arts involved in the project. There's going to be art, architecture, and landscape architecture all coming together to be part of one part of the project. And it's an important part. When that theming package comes before you, you're going to get to see how this project's going to develop in a unique way. Also coming before you sometime this year will be arts and public places. And then potentially you may see the balance of the residential and the non-residential in the town center district. So in deference to time tonight, I have 10 slides or 30 slides. So I think we're going to pick the 10 slideshow. I got it, 10 slideshow. So here we go. Just real quick, little history. Going to skip most of it. Approved in 2010. We had another change in 2011 to allow the Florida Power and Light site to be sold to FPL. And in 2013, there's an NLPC for this property. It was sold in December 2013. The family that owned it since 1957 sold it. The name has been officially changed to Alton, or All Town. Alton means a town of everything. The spine road through the center of the project now is called Alton Road. And then between here, this road right here now is called Pasteur, the road that separates all the biotech and technology areas. So the project, again, as I said earlier, are cleanup items. An important thing I want to make sure everyone understands, this does not change any density or intensity of what we're doing tonight. This is just cleanup items and going through the PCD process. So here we go. The first one is, when FPL bought the substation site, they needed an access point. So there'll be an access point added to the substation located in the northeast corner. The second part of that change on the FPL site was there was a utility easement located on the south part of that site. It's now being shifted to the Coulter parcel. The next change and requirement of our PCD, there was a requirement of 4 or 5 well stations for Seacoast Utility to provide future water for the city. Those sites were required to be placed on the PCD master plan. They're going to come in right now. And here they are. So there's going to be well sites on the site for both now and in the future. They're not going to be constructed anytime, but they will be potentially in the future. The next one is to adjust the roadway cross sections. We adjusted the roadway cross sections because of many engineering issues and working our way through those items. Some of them included modifying right-of-way widths, relocating dry utilities, and adding a Seacoast easement along Donald Ross Road, primarily between Alton Boulevard and I-95. Here they come, some minor changes. So other preparation items were to relocate the primary road and Premier Road, basically flip them. Now you see where the Premier Road now takes a little different path than it did before. We added a lake within the town center district. This lake is a 20-acre lake. It was not on the original plan. It's going to have a pathway around it, lighting. It's going to be very engaging to the future residents of Alton. We shifted some upland preserve areas around just a little bit because when we did it the first time, I forgot about project signage. So we added a couple spots where you could potentially put some project signage right along the front. We modified the PCD conditions to allow for future subdivisions of a parcel and a couple other conditions, basically be consistent with your planning procedures. We modified the roadway cross sections to allow knee walls. That it's going to be a separation of space between the public and the private space. The residential component on this side is going to be a T&D style development. So we've added some knee walls, which are about 12 inches high, and then there's a gate and a column about 40 inches high. And there's going to be a little bit, when they build them, there's going to be a little bit of a cap on them so the water flows off on both sides. So they're going to do that via border. The next thing is we added on-street parking to both Grand Flora and Alton. This just says Grand Flora, but it's also added Alton south of Grand Flora Road. South of Grand Flora Road. So there'll be some additional on-street parking. Again, the form of development here is going to be a little bit more traditional development than what was there proposed before. And we revised some conditional approvals to allow for some construction timing issues, specifically condition number 11, to allow the opportunity in the future for site plans to potentially request the opportunity to have the landscape installed a little bit later, because the nature of the way these houses are going to be built facing some of the rear roads, you may not be able to get up all the landscaping. But all we're doing is requesting the opportunity to request that down the road. Mr. Hearing will do that at the next site plan level. And that is my less than 4-minute presentation. I have lots of slides if you have any questions. Thank you.
Do you have any immediate questions for the petitioner?
Yeah, just on the utility wells, there?
Yes,
Those are going to be new production, and they're going to increase their allocation
they,
permits?
they are, and they will also be deep, they're deep well, they're not superficial aquifers.
Okay, so those are Florida wells?
Yes, Florida wells, that's correct, yes, sir.
Okay, because I was going to say, you're already in the drawdown zone of their well field, so because these are going to be deep, the aquifer is going to prevent the drawing down your well.
It's actually a pretty large easement. The actual well itself is not that big, but because it takes a big drill gizmo to come in there and do it, they have to have a 150-foot easement to do it, but the actual well sits in the drill.
It should be an 8-inch well, I think. And the Floridans are artesian, so you don't have to put big pumps up there.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Your staff presentation, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Peter Hoffmans for the record, City of Palm Beach County staff, here to do staff's presentation for Resolution 21, 2014. It's a request for an amendment to the Alton PCD, formerly known as the Scripps Florida Phase 2 Briger tract. The request is to modify the original conceptual roadway cross-sections, updates to the master plan, and modifications to conditions of approval numbers 11, 24, and 29. You are familiar with the location of the site. The applicant went over the background. And I'll just quickly go back over the modifications. They're looking to modify the original cross-sections for the interior roadways, the landscape palette for these roadways, and to add the additional hardscape treatments. These are coming from the engineering and utility standards as they've begun to design the roads. Now things have become more finalized, so there's been some slight adjustments. They are adjusting the multimodal node on the north portion of Alton Road to meet Caltrans standards. They are including the request for on-street parking along this section of ground floor road only, and along the southern part of Alton Road that is south of ground floor road. This will be public parking. They are locating the Seacoast Floridian wellfield sites and the new Seacoast easement along Norwalk Road. The minor preserve area modifications along the entryways. The city forester and our environmental consultant reviewed the changes to the upland preserves. There's no net loss, and they approved it. The applicant is also including the 22 acre lake within parcel C to handle all of the drainage for the parcel and switching the premier and primary street locations. There's been a little bit of discussion regarding the Dollar Ross roadway buffer, so I just wanted to provide additional clarification. What the applicant is proposing to modify is to include an exclusive Seacoast easement, 10-foot easement along the roadway between I-95 and Alton Road. In order to mitigate any potential impacts to landscaping, staff requested that the applicant include additional road shoulder landscaping along Dollar Ross Road. The plan as proposed by the applicant tonight and reviewed by the PRC committee continues to implement the ultimate goal and vision that was approved for the PCD by City Council with Resolution 1/2010, and underscored the importance of visibility along this corridor for the Scripps campus, the commercial, and the biotech areas. The modifications to the 3 conditions of approval. Condition of approval number 11 is related to the installation of the landscape buffers. As the applicant mentioned, we are including just a little bit of language that allows for the flexibility for that installation to be reviewed at the site plan approval process. Condition of approval number 24 is related, and 29 are both related to the planning of the project. These conditions are being modified to be more consistent with the city's land development code as it's approved today. The code has been changed since this was originally approved in 2010, so we're modifying these conditions to be consistent. The staff is recommending approval of Resolution 21, 2015.
Any questions of staff?
Just have a clarification, those conditions haven't changed since our staff report, right? The 3 conditions that you mentioned are the same exact conditions, the same language that you.
In the staff report you received, it contained the modifications to conditions of approval 24 and 29. So you received a subsequent memo to that this week in regards to the condition of approval, but all those remain the same.
Yep. Any other questions of staff?
I just have comments.
Let's see, anybody wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing none. Close the public hearing, bring it back up for discussion. Marcy?
I'm just going to say a few things, and it's in regards to landscape. I first want to say that I'm looking forward to this project being a successful project. I'm looking forward to this being an exciting project in the future and something that we're all proud of. In regards to the landscape buffer that's along Donald Ross Road, again, the buffers were all approved prior to being on the council and a long time ago. The only request is to add utilities within the landscape buffer. My concern is as follows. Donald Ross Road, and I've said this to staff, I'm just saying it to you because they are being aware of what my concern is. And I met with the petitioner and I met with the developer because I wanted to just let them know what my comments were, my concerns were. Donald Ross Road from 95 all the way east past Prosperity Farm Road has a swath, a beautiful swath of very large, lush landscape buffers. In addition, there's areas of preserve, and that's on both sides of Donald Ross Road. So when you go from 95 all the way east, on both sides of the road, there are very thick, native, natural, thick buffers, and that includes strips, it includes Mott's Pump, it includes Donald Ross Village, it includes Evergreen, it includes Frenchman's and beyond. And in this case, my concern was that this buffer was originally approved for 90 feet in width. And when it went through the original approval, it was reduced by a waiver, which was passed to a 55-foot landscape buffer. And then from there, we have a 10-foot utility easement now inside the buffer, and now we're asking for another 10-foot utility easement, which is Seacoast, inside the buffer, and a 12-foot sidewalk. That reduces, again, the buffer to a 23-foot wide width. So what I did was I asked the applicant and the developer if they would consider taking that 12-foot sidewalk and meandering it through the utility easement, curving their design like they already have, so that we're not having utility and sidewalk totally decreasing the width of the landscape buffer. And therefore, if they do this, it gives them more area for landscape opportunities. And they were amenable to doing this. I don't want to stall, I don't want to hold them up in the process, but I think that we can work with Seacoast because I did speak with them this week. They were willing to talk and meet with the developer to entertain the idea of additional landscaping within their easement, not the utility, the dry utility, but the Seacoast utility easement. They would entertain that idea and meet with them to discuss it, and they would also entertain the idea of other things like this sidewalk possibly meandering. So I would like the applicant to just go forth, and I'm just making you guys aware that there might be a modification to the landscape plans in the near future, but that I don't think it has to come back before the council. That part, the meandering
What did
sidewalk.
staff say when you had this meeting? What did staff say?
We talked to staff, they were aware of the actual, well, I talked to Ron, I didn't talk to staff, but I talked to Ron.
Well, when you guys all met, right? You guys all met together?
I met with the applicant and then with Ron.
You didn't meet with them? You didn't meet with them?
Yeah.
You didn't meet with them together?
We all did not meet together.
Oh.
We met at several times.
See, that's why you should meet together.
Well, we tried, but there was not enough time because the original plans, when we did meet together, were the wrong plans that we were looking at. But we, in detail, looked at the plans. We did have a meeting in the beginning, but we were looking at the wrong set of drawings.
Those are
So
excellent
we had a
comments.
subsequent meeting afterwards, and that's why it wasn't all together.
Marcy, those are excellent comments. How do we accomplish?
Now, I just have a quick question, staff. Is there a landscape buffer along the Abacoa Golf Course? I don't recall there being one.
The Abacoa Golf Course is the buffer. That's the only area they have a lake and golf course is, that's it, that's where it's playing. But they do have,
Because I thought, yeah, you could see that and you could see the university.
because they have a lake and then they have the university and on the other side of it. Just,
You met, Ken, you went, I mean, Jupiter was involved in this whole thing, so when we went with approval, Jupiter was okay with everything.
Specifically in regards to the 90-foot reduction to 55 feet waiver, There's no question. Jupiter was engaged in that conversation, Jupiter was engaged, and it was clear that this was not going to be Don Ross Road further east of the site. And the intention was to have more visibility when we get away from it. There's no question about that. Councilwoman Tinsley's discussing is different than what the original intent of the approval. We had that conversation. A little bit different than what the original intent of the approval was. But we also did add an easement to that.
So, and what I'm saying is the easement is now taking more buffer away from more landscape area away from the buffer. So that's why I said, instead of having,
How do we accomplish?
Testing. If the applicant wishes to propose additional changes to the buffer, they would need to submit those changes to staff, and staff would look at those and ultimately determine a process based on the criteria in our land development code, and whether that process would come before city council or be reviewed at staff level. I can't determine that right now because I don't know the extent of the changes that they would be proposing.
And that's, if I may interrupt, that's what we propose too. I mean, we're certainly willing to work with everybody here. We want to move forward tonight, obviously.
I don't want to hold you up either.
And we understand that there are criteria, when we submit plans, there are criteria that staff has to review. And if there is a change, we fully recognize that it has to come back before this board if it meets that criteria. But we're absolutely willing to work with it and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate you guys working with us.
Any other questions of staff of the commission? Okay, before we vote on this, Mr. Satriano, we have you down as resolution 21, but that's this resolution here. You wanted to speak on something different. No, we wrote it down. We tried to put them in order. We had to put resolution 21. So let us vote on this, and then I'll allow you to speak on your event. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll bring this back up for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move resolution 21, 2014.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. 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 Passes 5-0. Okay, Mr. Satriano, please come up. Thank you.
My name's Louis Satriano. I live at Lake Catherine Development. There's a new project coming in. It's on the corner of North Lake and MacArthur Boulevard. And it's next to the blood bank. And it's being proposed. It's in its early stages. I'd like to request that we have a workshop with the city and understand what's happening. We are tied in with the agent. It's the Colton and Hearing Group, Ali Palmer. And rather than just work with her alone, maybe the city can call a workshop for us and notify all the residents of Lake Catherine. I think it would be a wise thing because there's a drive-through restaurant coming in. And if you know early in the morning, the school bus is coming down, you can't move. And people have to come in on the golf and turn into the drive-through. And they're also talking about a PDQ coming on the west side that has a drive-through restaurant. So there's two restaurants up front on North Lake and the drive-through is in the back area. So I think it would be good if we had a workshop and explain to the residents what's coming in and the road condition. One other thing, and this is on that train, I think a good proposal would be a monorail that would run on Florida Turnpike. Solve all the problems.
Right into Disney World. Right in.
And it goes to Orlando.
Is it really?
And it wouldn't be
I might have been born then, I don't know.
wouldn't interfere with any trains, any bridges. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. How far is that along in the planning process?
We have received applications for PUD amendments.
Please speak into the
Yeah, bring it over, thank you.
PUD amendment measures and structures, and they have to, it's a long way to go, but they have to add drive-through provision to, so we can allow drive-through, I think they consider drive-through restaurants.
Okay.
So we still have a long way to go. We will have public hearings as part of the process.
Okay, let's make a note of that and keep the Lake Catherine board involved. I'm sure we send out letters whenever there's meetings and stuff like that, for staff, whatever, okay? Please keep that actively involved and let us know.
They just
Thank you.
started that process? They just started, they just submitted?
Yes, we are going through the process.
Okay, thank you, staff. Lou, thank you, appreciate your patience. Next up is Resolution 22, 2014, will read the title.
Resolution 22, 2014, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving art and public places for Franklin Academy Plan Unit Development, PUD, as more particularly described here, and providing conditions of approval, providing an effective date for other purposes.
Get over the public hearing and ask the petitioner presentation. How are you doing?
Good evening, Wendy Tillo with Urban Design Field Day Studios, representing the applicant Florida Charter Schools for their Art Public Places request. As you recall, the Franklin Academy is located on the north side of Hood Road, surrounded by what is now going to be called Alton. The Franklin Academy is a public charter school that was modeled after the principles of Benjamin Franklin. It was approved in May for a K through 8 school with 1,340 students, and it is planning on opening in the fall of 2014. As you recall, here's the site plan with the school facing Hood Road, the parking to the north, and a 90-foot parkway buffer along Hood Road. The applicant is proposing to place the art in public places within the 90-foot parkway buffer, adjacent to the 12-foot wide meandering sidewalk. Here's a close-up of how that plan would look. There would be a walkway around the art, additional plantings, and uplighting to showcase the art. The school chose artist George Lundeen. He's a well-known historian artist. He does bronze sculptures. Here's some of his work. He came up with this concept, a life-size bronze sculpture of Benjamin Franklin and 2 children conducting the kite electrical experiment. From this sketch, he created a clay model, and this shows what the elevation would eventually look like. The art is approximately 8 feet wide by 6 feet tall, and it's being placed on a 3-foot high pedestal. The artist recommends that the art be maintained by cleaning it and waxing it semi-annually. It would be secured with anchors and lit by 4 uplights. The timeline for fabrication takes approximately 6 months. We're agreeing to a condition of approval to have the art installed by October 1st of this year, and the applicant has already deposited all of their funds into the escrow account. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the petitioner?
Is this going to be grounded? So, because it obviously is going to attract light.
Any other relevant questions?
That was a sign.
All right, do we have a staff presentation?
Thank you, Councilmember. Staff will be happy to give you a presentation if you wish, but we are supportive of the applicant's
No objections,
request.
right? Okay.
Art public places, board, the best is
Any questions from staff?
I guess I better make the motion.
No, hold on, I ain't done yet. Anybody wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Keep back up for a discussion or a vote.
Move resolution 22, 2014.
Second.
Got a motion, 2 seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. Next up, resolution 23, 2014. Will the clerk read the title?
Resolution 23, 2014, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving an amendment to the downtown Florida's master signage plan in order to modify the location of 3 tenant wall signs as more particularly described here and providing conditions of approval, providing an effective date for other purposes.
Been open the public hearing. That's for any ex partes. None. None. Petitioner presentation, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here this evening for the record Donaldson hearing here tonight on behalf of Downtown Gardens. I have been sworn and I will be brief. This is a request for a minor amendment to the signage plan that was approved back in 2012 by the Planning and
council. The request is simply a minor amendment to the location of previously approved signage. There's no changes to the number of signs, the size of the sign, just really the location and where it's justified on the site. This is the area of the proposed change, which is the area that we refer to as the West Ballet. Just in this area right here, the signage is just moving to be a little bit more websterly justified. It's currently located in the east in the area which is highlighted by the yellow square, and we're simply moving that further to the west. The same signage, no increase in size, letters, or etc. So it's just simply moving to the west. This request was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Board, unanimously recommended approval of the petition to you. Staff is in support of the request, and for that, the briefest presentation I've ever made for request for approval.
Any questions of petitioner? No. Staff's in agreement with everything? No issues?
Yes, we are in agreement.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, close the public hearing, bring it back up for discussion or vote.
Move resolution 28, 2014. Oh, sorry, no, wrong resolution.
Go ahead, say it again.
I'm on the wrong resolution.
23.
Move resolution 23, 2014.
Got a motion, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. Yeah, thank you.